think that's all the pop-ups. Anything else? I do too.
I probably don't see Dan and
Oh, there, yeah.
talking about the devil. But down there.
Maybe are you able to confirm who are the 11 attendees other than PCA?
1, 2, 3, 4. I think everyone is here.
Okay, but who are the 11? Because on the screen,
Councillor Larrabee's here and Mr. Poulet, Ms. Craddock, and Mr. Remillard, and the others that you can see on the screen.
okay,
How come we don't see Mr. Larrabee?
Oh, he's in. I guess he has his camera turned off.
okay, so I have 6:31 and we have quorum, so we're able to commence. Welcome, bienvenue. The municipality of West Nipissing respectfully acknowledges that we are gathered on the homelands of the Anishinaabe peoples on the traditional territory of the Nipissing, Temagami, and Dokis First Nations covered by the Robinson-Huron Treaty. We honor and recognize their historic connection to the land and value their significant contribution in shaping and strengthening our communities. La municipalité de Nipissing-Ouest souligne respectueusement que nous sommes réunis sur le territoire désigné dans le traité Robinson-Huron, territoire traditionnel du peuple Anishinaabe et particulièrement des Premières Nations Nipissing, Temagami et Dokis. Nous honorons leur lien historique avec cet endroit et nous apprécions leur contribution significative à nos communautés. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Aucune déclaration d'intérêt pécuniaire? Hearing none. Is there a mover and a seconder to approve the resolution for the addendum? Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Normand.
It is moved by Councillor Zeheim, seconded by Councillor Berge. Be it resolved that the addendum for the meeting of council held on September the 20th, 2022 be approved as presented.
Any objections? Aucune objection? None. Carried. Adopted. A mover and a seconder to move the to adopt the agenda. Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Leo.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Mallette. Be it resolved that the agenda for the meeting of council held on the 20th of September 2022 be approved as presented.
Any objections or any questions? The only comment that it was brought to my attention just before the meeting that the petition that we had received at the first meeting of September was scheduled for discussion at this meeting, but unfortunately it was omitted from the agenda. So just a reminder that we'll have to deal with the petition that was received for Monsieur Perron recognition. If we can have it added to the agenda for our next meeting. No objections? Carried. Adopted. We move on to Committee of the Whole, and the first committee that we have on the agenda is Emergency Matters and Public Safety Committee, and I'm going to pass it on to the chair, Conseiller Chris.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I have two items. I have the speed limits at Levine Bridge and legal update on the proposed vehicle for hire bylaw. On the waterways, we have some information from staff put together by Mr. Remillard, and I wonder if Mr. Remillard is here, if he wants to walk us through it.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, councillors, Mayor Joanne. So I did some research, and fortunately, there is a universal shoreline speed restriction that applies to all of Ontario for that matter. And so we do have regulation for this area. What I would recommend is for either Public Works or Community Services to maybe post some signage. I'm thinking maybe people just need a bit of a reminder that there is a speed limit. The speed limit is maximum 10 kilometers per hour within 30 meters of any shoreline. I thought we would have posted, this is what the signage would look like. So maybe we could, post some signage at the Living boat launch, potentially post some signage near the bridge area, just to remind watercrafts to obey the speed limits. And subsequent to that, we would, if we still don't see any changes, then enforcement is our key.
Thank you. So should I do a round table on this one, or let's just do a round table? Yvonne, comments, questions?
Thank you. Yeah, I do agree. I do agree with what's been presented, and I also am happy to see that we can put a sign in place. It'll educate the people, and the only other thing that I'd like to know is who would enforce the penalty or the law. I guess it would be, I'm not sure who would be. That's a question I'm asking. But no, I do agree. There's something has to be done there. There's going underneath that bridge at high speed is dangerous, and we should post signs at the launch as well as other places and right there at the bridge itself on both sides. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So you know what? I'm just going to skip everyone because Dennis has his hand up, and it is his agenda item. So let's go to Dennis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to clarify before we move on, this was put on the table in the spring, last spring, and the idea behind this is to control the traffic surrounding our bridge. Has nothing to do, well, not really anything to do with the shoreline issue. What we're looking for is to slow down traffic underneath the bridge from both sides, and to prevent dock damage. And it's a safety issue because the vision under the bridge is narrower. But I think the intent is to maybe expand the shoreline stretch from maybe 100 feet to the whole of Living Bay or the surrounding bridge. With this would then give the OPP the opportunity to regulate and regulate speeds, and otherwise to limit 30 meters or 100 feet from shore doesn't do very much because the opening in the bridge is further than 100 feet. So I think we're defeating the purpose if we're sticking to 100 feet from the shore. But the intent is to slow traffic down. And as you know, we've already had two deaths, two drownings in the past 2 years. I'm not saying that was the cause. I'm just saying it is what it is. And I've had a near miss reported to me this spring with a kayak. So there's all kinds of vessels like kayaks and boats and pontoons and fishermen. And so we try to, I think that the best solution to regulate this is to put signage, and we can't put signage on the bridge unless we apply to the federal government, and that's part of the application, I think. And that's what the intent is of me bringing this up, is to proceed with the application to the federal level so that we can get a permit to regulate speeds in the whole of Living Bay, not just on the shoreline. And that's what it seems to be a confusion there. I wanted to clear that up. And so the intent is to slow down the traffic and to a safety issue surrounding the bridge. There's quite a bit of traffic in the summertime. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Larrabee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I do agree with what Mr. Remillard presented. If 100 feet on each side, on each shore, so you're looking at 200 feet. If you take 100 on one side, 100 on the other side, so that's taking care of most of the waterways under that bridge. So I think the first step I would suggest is what Monsieur Remillard said is we put signs. Usually a sign is enough to get the word out. And if with time we see that it doesn't work, then we could apply to have enforcement, full-fledged enforcement. But at this time, just a sign saying to slow down like 10 miles or 10 kilometers an hour is should suffice with that demand. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Millet.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Councillor Larrabee and Mr. Romeo. The signage, we'll start with the signage, and if it pursues after that, if there's a problem by next year, then we can pursue it again. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rovida.
Sorry, it's Councillor Roberge before.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry, Councillor Roberge.
Thank you. Well, I think if we're going to look at this situation, maybe we should look at it more deeply. The boating season is almost finished, but we can get rolling for next year anyway. I did hear what Councillor Senecal mentioned regarding that the 100 feet or the 30-meter setback stops before the opening in the bridge. So then that means anybody traveling in the middle of the waterway is not affected. And that's where the danger point is when they come across on the other side of the bridge at that speed. A deadly collision is bound to happen. So if there's a legal way, whether it's by whatever means, bylaw of some sort or arrangement with the enforcement agency, I think we should look if it's possible to make the whole section from one shore to the other, maybe starting at the creek entrance, going westward, to have the whole section limited to the 10 kilometer. I would know if we're going to do something. I can see sign will maybe be effective on some people, but there's some that will disregard it unless there's a teeth to it, and the only way you can do that, because at the bridge, if you measure it, you're beyond the 100 feet, either one shore or the other. So I do support that maybe we should go deeper in this subject if it's legally possible. That's my position.
Thank you. Councillor Rovida. You're on mute, Councillor Rovida.
I took myself off mute. I put myself on mute. Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I totally agree with what Mr. Remillard is proposing, and I'm a little perplexed here because if we put the signs up advising people that it's 10 kilometers per hour, isn't that enforceable? Because the thing is that so the question through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Remillard is that by putting up the signs, is it just putting up the signs just to put them up, or is it putting up the signs to tell people it's 10 kilometers and that it'll be enforced? So that's a question.
I can answer. Typically, at the OPP, same as we've seen on Sturgeon River, they like to see signage. They don't like to enforce or fine watercraft without adequate signage. So that's why I was recommending, and it's very specific. We can't put just put up any signage. It's got to be the Transport Canada signage. Any other signage would. And as per Councillor Senecal's comment, we would need MTO permission because it is, Highway 64 is an MTO right of way. So if we're going to post on their bridge, we'd obviously need their permission. Obviously, we wouldn't need any permission to post at the boat launch, but on the bridge, MTO permission would be advisable.
So supplemental to that, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So are you saying that the only place that we could put a sign is on the bridge?
Well, we can, I would recommend at the boat launch as well, but near where boats or watercrafts are traveling under the bridge, they would visibly see the sign. Therefore, when the OPP does enforce or fine somebody, they can't say, well, we didn't know, right? The sign would be visible right at the bridge, and people would have to slow down to 10 kilometers an hour when traveling under that bridge. Now, where the bay does open up, then if they're within 30 meters or 100 feet from shore, they need to obey the speed limit. That's what the signage would say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I concur with the recommendation of signage, but I also concur that there has to be a little bit more that's being done because of the problem that were identified. The signage is good for controlling the speed along a certain parameter from the shoreline, but like Conseil Normand and what the issues that Conseil Denis Senecal had brought forward in the past, it's the safety concern, which is right below the bridge in the middle part. And that has been an ongoing issue every year. And it's just a question of time before there is an accident that do occur. So I think that we should be escalating the issue even a little bit further, either through an application to the federal government, and if not an application, at the very minimum, a resolution adopted by council asking the government of Canada to review and provide an exemption for speed control under the bridge, that it be that the speed under the bridge be regulated the same as the speed along the shoreline. And that would not hurt and would be a start for council to move the issue forward. And hopefully future council will continue to work on the subject matter.
Thank you. Councillor Lee Senecal.
Conseil Denis is for me.
Oh, sorry, it is Councillor Senecal.
Can I speak again?
Yeah, I will let you, beans it's your item, so I'll let you speak again.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. It's just to reiterate what Sean was saying. I think, Sean, we have no authority under the bridge, either side of the bridge, where the pass-through is. Even if I guess we could put a sign, but that sign has no meaning because we're more than 100 feet from shore. Just take, for example, the launch boat in Laving, and you go 100 feet, you're not going very far. You're not even close to the bridge. So, and there's not that many people. Not everybody goes through the launch. So to put a sign on the bridge, I don't know if that would work, because technically anybody that goes over 10 kilometers is not in contravention of anything because we have no regulation. And the intent here is to have the bay slow down, just like in the river, for 9 kilometers or 10 kilometers. And there's no cost to the municipality besides the application process, which is, I agree, is very long. But I think it would be worth it at the end, so we could put buoys at each side. But I think we're confusing shoreline with with the natural waters of the bay, because the shoreline, okay, that's fine, but the OPP will never go to Laving to monitor the shoreline. I mean, it's not worth their while. And so I think we're not, the objection that we want, or the objective that we want, is not being achieved. We're just doing this for nothing, because it's already clear that 100 feet from shore, you need to slow down. So it's not going to solve anything. And I don't see what's the resistance to apply to the federal government. It's a long process, but they'll reject the application if it doesn't make sense. But I think we should give it a go. But that's my opinion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Lee Santo.
Merci, Monsieur Conseiller. Chair, I also agree that we should, if we do it, to do it right and to try to solve the problem. And I like seeing a speed limit sign. I guess border are a lot more respectful of sign that highway, because we would not have, that's not happening in our highway. There's sign all over the place. So, and if we cannot enforce under the bridge, that's where the problem is. That's where it's very dangerous. So I would agree that with Conseiller Roberge, Conseiller Denis, Madame Maire, and I don't Conseiller Yvon to fix the problem before something happens. So whatever needs to be done, application. Thank you.
Thank you. So just, I have one question for Mr. Remelot. What is the length of that bridge approximately? Is it like 300 feet or?
So I'll double check the exact span. It's not a municipal bridge, so I'm not privy to that information. But I'm not thinking like from abutment to abutment, if it's more than 200 feet, is an abutment considered shoreline? That's where I'm, I'm thinking it would be. The abutments aren't, and on the water, they tend to have, there seems to be a riprap kind of shoreline there. So I don't know if it would fall and cover us for that 10 kilometers an hour.
Right. Okay, so thank you. So go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Jacques.
Thank you. Just want to comment on this, is that if you go, let's say 100 feet from the bridge, there's no way that you're closer than 100 feet. I mean, you might be at the pillars, but if you go west or east 100 feet, there's no way you're 100 feet from shore there. It's at least 300 feet. So anyways, that's all I can say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, I guess in closing, we seem to have consensus to go forward with an application to put signs and make the speed limit under the bridge 10 kilometers an hour. So I think that's where we're at. Everybody agrees with that?
Mr. Chair, I would like the question to be: do we proceed with the application for a federal application? Yes or no? Then we can.
Yes, I think we all. I think we have consensus that that's the thing to do, and I believe that application has to go in even to put a sign, right?
Well, that's not. I think the question should be: do we proceed with the application? Then that's up to the council. I would like to know if the council wishes to proceed with this or not with the application, because it's a long process. So.
Okay, so
Councillor Fisher?
Yes.
Madame Maire has been, her hand has been up for a while.
Sorry, you're so tiny that. Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
I was just going to say, Mr. Chair, through you, it appears that Conseiller Denis Sénécal is bringing forward a motion where he wants council to consider moving forward with the application to have speed control regulated underneath the entire bridge. So I think that should come forward, and I believe he's moving it, and if there would be a seconder, that we vote on the matter.
Okay, so we're kind of in committee, and I from what I've heard, I think we do have. I agree with that position, so I think we have consensus to give that direction to staff already. So-
Well,
It's not clear.
well, as for, to summarize the discussion, everyone seemed to be in agreement with the recommendation of our public work manager to proceed with signage to regulate speed along the shoreline. But underneath the bridge, what we are told is that there may not be any regulation of speed underneath the bridge because it exceeds the shoreline regulation. So we need to proceed with an application. So there's two issues. Consensus, everyone agreed with signage. The other issue is also addressing the matter of regulating the speed underneath the bridge. And the only way that we can do that is by putting in a request to the federal government and proceeding with the application. And that's what Consolidating is bringing forward as far as the motion.
Right, I understand that. Just let me go to CAO, Mr. Bylaw, go ahead.
Well, I agree with your initial ruling that now's not the time for a formal resolution. I do also agree, though, that to be very clear, a resolution would, would make things clear even for the application. So what I'm indicating is that there will be a resolution indicating, directing staff to make an application on this file at the next meeting.
Okay, so thank you. So that should clear that up then. So I'm gonna now move on to the next item, which is the legal update on the proposed vehicle for hire bylaw. The feeling at the last meeting was we wanted to find if there was a way to do something interim to make sure vehicles are safe and people have vulnerability sector checks and that kind of thing. So there is a memo on that, I believe, from our clerk. And would you like to present that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So attached to your agenda documents, you had requested that I get a position from the municipal solicitor with regard to the efficacy of an interim bylaw versus doing a full comprehensive bylaw. And his answer was pretty much the same either way, that he felt that it was important that consultation be carried out in either event. So my question to council is, do we proceed with implementing a bylaw without consultation, which would have the effect of getting us that power, or proceed with the consultation? But I did note in my memo with a caveat that regardless of which way we proceed, there's going to be some implementation time where we have to get applications together and we have to get the set fines organized with the province, and we have to create forms, and also there would have to be consultation to the extent at least notifications, so that those who are currently operating with unlicensed could have time to adhere. So I am seeking council's direction on which way to proceed.
Okay, so thank you. So we'll do a roundtable on this, and I guess basically you put three options. Your actual recommendation is a comprehensive bylaw and notice to public, and so your recommendation is bullet point 3. That's correct?
That is correct. We have to do the consultation and the notification, be it a quickie bylaw or a comprehensive. So there doesn't seem any point in doing the same work twice. And that's just putting it, I guess, plainly.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dehaene.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do agree with the proposal by Madame Cham, our clerk, and I think we should go ahead with it as soon as possible. There's no question about it. I think we need that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Larrabee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also agree with proceed with comprehensive bylaw, including public consultation, and number 3. It is recommended by our clerk and also our lawyer, Mr. Valboom. So I just heard just a while ago on the other topic that if we're going to do it, let's do it right. So this should apply for this subject also. Let's do it right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Millet.
Yeah, I also agree. Let's move ahead.
Councillor Rabush.
Yes, I do agree as per the recommendation, because I think we need a very good, comprehensive, solid bylaw for the protection of our residents. So I support the full bylaw as recommended.
Thank you. Councilor Revita.
Yes, I totally agree with what's been said before me, and I think that the comprehensive research and bylaw should be implemented, and the consultation. I think the consultation is very important because that's what people are asking for.
Thank you. Madam Mayor.
I have no objection with the comprehensive bylaw, and definitely always endorse consulting with the public so the public is engaged in the process. My only concern, though, is this consultation process will take how long? What is being proposed as far as consultation? When will it start? And when can it be anticipated to
I
be?
haven't gotten to that point yet. I was going to reach, if council was comfortable with proceeding, I was going to reach out to other municipalities and find out how they did it, whether they did it just by notification and receiving written, whether we do something on the website or whether we hold a public meeting, but I hadn't fleshed that out yet. I just was seeking direction on which way to go tonight.
Okay, and if I may, Mr. Chair, for you, I understand the process for consultation and the time and the task involved and for the information to be gathered and brought forward. But in the interim, from the time that is done, from now till the time that is completed and that a full comprehensive bylaw is adopted by council, what happens to the safety of our citizens in the interim? They can basically hop into a vehicle with someone that doesn't have a security clearance, a criminal record check.
So is that a question to?
Well, I'm asking the question through you, Mr. Chair. So from the time that this comprehensive bylaw is adopted, that means our citizens can be using transportation services, not knowing or not having the assurance that the driver has gone through a criminal record check. So
Right.
I am addressing or stipulating that safety concern because I definitely, I don't think personally it's right that people are blindly embarking or getting into vehicles not knowing that there's been a security check done with the driver. So if that's what we have to do, I can't see why this council cannot at least have the assurance of saying that anyone providing shared services or providing transportation services that automatically are required to have a criminal record check done with police authorities until a full comprehensive bylaw is adopted.
So I'm going to hand that to Melanie, but my understanding of what I've read here is really with unless we define what vehicles for hire are and do those definitions and put the bylaw in place, that's really not an option. Is that correct, Melanie? What I'm saying?
That is correct, Mr. Chair. We can't compel the public to do anything without a bylaw with an enforcement proceedings. That's simply the way it is. We can suggest, but unfortunately we have zero stick until we have a bylaw.
Thank you.
So if we can suggest, can we at least have something identified in writing that we would advocate and recommend to individuals providing transportation services that we would recommend that they obtain a criminal record check and recommend that they are able to provide that if asked by the passenger using their services?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not even sure we can stretch it that far, Your Worship. I think that the municipality has to make a decision and with its authority under the Municipal Act, implement that decision. I don't think that we are in the suggestion business. And even if we did suggest it and no one paid any attention, there's absolutely nothing we could do about it. And without a bylaw, staff doesn't even have the right to collect that information. So that's just my thoughts.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. At least the public, those are listening, that are listening to our meeting this evening, at least can understand that there's no mechanism right now in place for their own protection.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, can I just get through the roundtable and then I'll go back. Councillor D. Seneca.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no issue with the third, the comprehensive bylaw and consultations.
Thank you. Councillor Lee Seneca.
Well, I don't have an issue with, to proceed with a comprehensive bylaw, but I do have an issue concerning the safety. I mean, what's going on in the world right now, and that we know that there is already existing, that people are driving people around. We need the bylaw, but I mean, Madame Duchamp, you cannot say approximately gave a time frame. If it takes a year, 2 years, it's got to be a free for all in town as tomorrow, because
I don't anticipate it's going to take a year or 2 years. I think personally, I think we need to get through the election. There's lots on people's plates right now, and I know that councillors would want to be part of the consultation. And you know, it's a process, like, you know, the same as a planning file where there will be public input and it'll be brought back to council. And I'm just not 100% sure that this is the right time to be doing that, but certainly something that is should be dealt with immediately, as quickly as possible following the election in October and the implementation of a new council.
Thank you. Councillor Millet, you had a comment?
Yes, well, I remember a while back when we had the taxi, and apparently they could not get a record check because they were expired, and we gave them an extension for months back then. And I know some of the drivers with the shuttle, whatever you want to call it, and then I've known some drivers, and if they want to get a record check, I would not be afraid. But I know we had done that before. We had given them an extension without a record check.
Okay, so thank you. So I believe we've got, okay, Councillor Larrabee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question for you would be to the, I guess, the mayor. Are you, Madam Mayor, suggesting that our residents are in danger with the existing service providers?
I'm waiting for the chair to give me the floor so I can respond.
Yeah, I think we have consensus. I don't really want to go here, but yes, please respond, and then let's move forward.
I'm not implying that the actual service providers may not meet the criteria of a criminal record check, but I do not have the assurance that they do. And to me, it's not a guessing or an assumption. It's having actual facts and assurance to our citizens. So looking after 15,000 people, and when they ask you on the street, is there anything regulating the drivers? I have to say no, and people are asking to have the assurance that they are safe.
Okay, so thank you. So I think we have full consensus to option 3, as was the recommendation of staff. And with that, I give the chair back to the mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On procède avec le prochain comité, the next committee, Social Services and Health Committee. And I'll pass that on to the chair. which is Consolidating.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, we have an update on the with installation of the bins. I know if it's you, Stefan, that you're going to guide us through this one. Or okay, Alyssa, sorry, and Mrs. Crada.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have much to add beyond what, excuse me, has been provided to us in forms of an update. And so they've given us some numbers from some other communities that they have collected data on. As she said, we don't actually have the data in our bins. Anecdotally, I can tell you that the bins that our bin isn't hugely used, but we haven't done the weighing or had any counts or any of that kind of stuff go on at our bin. And so it is, I guess, just sort of, they're just returning that information that council had talked about for further discussion on and introducing these boxes in several locations. At the time, council talked, sort of briefly at the delegation as far as, lots of different locations they were considering. Our current bin costs us about $7,200 a year, $7,300 a year to maintain. So just that's the number. These smaller bins might be a little bit less depending on frequency of service from the provider. And other than that, it really is just an update for council that they had requested, and you've obviously got the memo or the letter from them in front of you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Crada. I'll go around table with Councillor Yvonne. Do you have any questions or comments?
We all know the danger of what needles can do. I'm concerned with what we've noticed in the past and in our fields and our roads, along the roads, and the path, in different areas. They're there. There's no question about it. And other boxes would certainly would help. How many of them, I'm not sure. But whatever is needed and whatever is required, I would agree that we should really look at this and come to conclude to add to the boxes, the box that we have now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Chris Fisher.
Yeah, so my only comment is, I really don't, I personally, up in field, I've never spotted a needle that I can think of. And I'm not saying no, but my biggest concern is one of cost. If we start distributing these things all around town and they're actually not getting used, I got to assume people these have to be checked and potentially emptied. And if we're already paying $7,000 a year for that service, my concern is how big that cost balloons, and whether where they go and if they're necessary everywhere. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Councillor Robert.
Well, I think it's.
Sorry, there's Councillor Larrabee. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I support added boxes if the need is there, definitely. So I'm in support of this. If staff is recommending it and there's a need for it, then I'm in agreement with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Larrabee. Now, Councillor Norman Robert.
Yeah, I do support that. We have to improve the system because of the danger of these sharps. But how many we need, I don't have a clue. I mean, and I think it should be justified. Like they must have a certain area that you find more disposal than other areas. So I guess to go any further, we would require some sort of a survey so that we target where they will be useful, because they cost a certain amount of money to maintain. You have to make arrangements to have them cleaned up. So before we make a final commitment, I think I fully support that we should increase the quantity, but how many, I have no clue. Like Councillor James says, how do we find that? So I think there must be area where people making use of these items concentrate more heavily. So that would be that general area that we should service, I would believe, is bring the solution to where the problem is, not just any location. That's my position.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Roberts. Councillor Dan Rivera.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no issue either with extending the bin system. In the last 2 years under sturgeon beautification, we haven't found any downtown. However, it was brought to my attention by somebody this week, well, after the agenda went out, that there are some areas that do have them. And the question from this person was, she went into work and there was a bunch of them on the ground. And I won't mention where the name is because she asked me not to say where it was. Her question was, okay, we have these bins, but what do we do when we cite these other, the ones that are the ones that she saw in the back of her place of employment? I know there's no protocol. The same person thought that there was volunteers that did it. And I said, no, the sturgeon beautification group does not pick up needles. So maybe, Ms. Craddock, I guess I was right when I said that we don't have a protocol in place on how to pick these up. Was I right or was I wrong? Thank you. So my question is to Mrs. Craddock.
Ms. Craddock, please. You're on mute.
Oh, yeah, you are correct. We have a protocol that we handle when there are needles found in public space. It's our space. So if it's at the park or the splash pad or something like that, when it's on private property, the municipality doesn't have a protocol. We don't respond to complaints about needles on private property. Certainly she can, securely pick up the needles, safely pick up the needles with tongs and things like that. There's some good resources on the health unit site about how to deal with needles you find out and about in the public. And I hesitate to volunteer the hospital or the pharmacies publicly this, but they would probably take them for her if she had to dispose of just a few. If she's got a chronic problem, then that's probably an area that we actually want to know about. If she's got a chronic problem that she's always finding, 50 at the back of her property, and then again, if it's a chronic problem, I don't know whether the pharmacies and the hospitals would always help her out with it or not. It's sometimes a difficult thing for needles on private property. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Supplemental to that, basically it is on a private property. Another area too that they say that they're having issues with is along the railway tracks, and I guess that again is not public. That's not part of the municipal property, and I guess would be the responsibility of the railway system
of the landowner. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll pass that message on. When she saw this on the agenda, she called me. So okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Mayor Joanne?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, it's pretty hard to pinpoint exactly where a problem lies when it comes to needles and substance abuse. But I think the fact of having worked with the Committee for the Community Wellbeing and Safety Plan, it was an initiative that was that we have a goal to keep our communities safe. I support the initiative of these boxes because at the time that we had the mailbox or the inbox installed on Queen Street, there was always the issue about what about the outlying areas? And these boxes are smaller containers fixed to buildings, which are being provided by the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit free of charge. And also they're going to be providing the inserts into these boxes, a certain inventory free. Our cost would be to replenish those inserts, which we were given roughly a cost, in that there could be an opportunity that it be even lower than that. And also for the disposal, from what I read, unless I read incorrectly, once the inserts are being emptied, they could be brought to a pharmacy for disposal. So it seems to be a little bit different than the mechanism that we have for the disposal of the large unit that is located on Queen Street. Would that be correct?
Ms. Craddock?
So they put that comment in there about pharmacies, but that's actually incorrect. You know, because we've had dealings with the pharmacy and the hospital both on kind of one-offs and little things that we had prior to having that bin in there. The pharmacy and the hospital pay for disposal themselves. So they've said, yeah, we don't mind helping you out if you're stuck with a one bin being full, but as a regular service provider, that's not going to be our answer. They said because they have to pay for it on their disposal. They're not going to take it from us, that we need to find our own agent to deal with the disposal. And I assume that, you know, our current contractor would be able to deal with these small bins as well.
Okay, so what we're saying is that the pharmacy would not accommodate the disposal of the small inserts that would be emptied from the different communities?
That's correct, yeah. At least not without a fee. I didn't talk to them about whether they would do it for a fee, but they pay for their disposal, so they're not going to just take ours in.
Okay. And if there's minimal usage or no usage in the locations where the boxes would be installed, well, then the cost would even be lower than what is being identified.
Ms. Craddock?
Again, the cost is, if we're dealing with a service, the cost is based on how frequently we call them to come, whether there's zero needles in the bin or whether the bin is full. It's based on whether we think that they need to come monthly, and then they'll come monthly and they'll bill us monthly, regardless of whether anything gets picked up or not. If we need them bi-weekly, if we need them, you know, so the cost of the service is independent of how many needles are in there, and it's based on the frequency that we feel. But you're correct, if the bin is not being used hardly at all, then we would just drop how frequently they go to that bin.
Okay. So I think we have an opportunity here that we can keep our community safe according to a plan that we all supported. And it would be a minimal investment, but a minimal investment to educate and also provide the support to the outlying communities. So I'm in favor of moving forward with this initiative. And there was a little bit of statistics that was also provided to us pertaining to the volume of needles that are being provided and the number of needles that are being returned. So these sharps are being disposed, and they may not be disposed physically on the ground, but could be disposed through other ways, either in garbage disposal or in locations that's identified by some members of council. So if we can have these boxes, small units, fixed to buildings, and having one in each community, what we're doing is a great start in getting people to advocate for safety and education, and making sure that we look at a multitude of strategies to make our community safe. This is one strategy that can easily make a difference.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Councillor Denise Seneca.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just read something interesting. Is they're saying that they're trying to implement a system of weigh-in for each community to weigh in the sharps, I guess, as they empty them. But it looks like we have to do it ourselves, or we can opt in to that and have them pick it up and weigh in the needles to ensure that give us data on what kind of usage we have. And the service is free of charge. So I think we should opt into this weigh-in system that they talk about. And also I agree that we should have more bins in town, but maybe this weigh-in will give us an idea of where we should put them. So I found that very interesting. Maybe we can look into the weigh-in system. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Senecal. Councillor Lee Senecal.
Well, I definitely agree to have them installed in each municipality and try, and I know that the committee look into places to put it, that would be the best place to be. Another thing I think maybe that they should start looking at, because I know we had it in Sudbury when I was working in Sudbury, we could pick up like a small yellow plastic container, like they were about that. I don't know if you can see it, but, and then the training to pick up needle is very easy. Like you just need to have not those just glove that you put like, because they won't work, but, and then something to pick it up and put it there, and they can empty it in a box, whatever, closer to them, if it's on private property. Businesses have, most of them in Sudbury anyways. At that time, the town had some in the bathroom, and so I think it's, we definitely need to look into that, because I mean, the number of overdose that we're seeing, and it's not getting better every day, it's getting worse. And if we can at least put anything in place to try to protect, at least if they are lying on the street, and so a place for them to dispose them, it's great. So I definitely would support it, and this initiative, I think it's great. And I did not understand, I know that Madame Alicia had mentioned we have statistic, but I did not get why West Nipissing we don't have statistic. I know you said it, but I did not hear you well. Did we get it, or I did not hear nothing about West Nipissing?
If I may, Mr. Chair, as it says here, and as Councillor Denise Senecal mentioned, is that we are not collecting that weigh-in data. They're not doing counts for us. That's not the service that we have with our provider. Now, I haven't followed up with our provider. It is interesting, again, that she said that it's a free service. I can certainly follow up with our provider. It didn't used to be a free service. It used to be an add-on, but if it now is a free service that we can get with our provider, then, you know, it is something we can look at, so we can start to get, they just weigh the container, and based on the weight of the container, they assume there's X number of needles in the container. And that's what they do. But yeah, we don't have that statistics available for our current bin.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Greta. Yes,
Monsieur Chair, I did not get my answer. I did direct a question to Madame Alicia, and
okay, Ms. Greta.
I asked Madame Alicia if I think you mentioned it, but I'm not sure, because I did not hear you say it clearly. Is West Nipissing, why is West Nipissing we don't have stats? If they have stats for North Bay, and they have stats for Nipissing First Nation, and so why we don't have stats?
Well, I believe I just answered that, is that we have not been subscribing to the service that involves giving us a count of the needles.
Oh, I thought you were answering to Conseiller Dennis for the weight difference.
No, he pointed it out in the letter.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry about that, but even now, for me, it's why don't we don't want to know how much needle they picked up? Why are they not doing it to in West Nipissing then?
At the time that we started the service, it was an add-on that we did not assume.
Okay.
Okay, so what I can hear from everyone is this is from Mrs. Gobratz, more information, but where the bins are going to go, I guess it'll be for in future consultation with the communities where they want the bins, if we're going to be spending that much more money. That's the way I could understand. If I'm correct, Ms. Greta?
That's how I heard it as well, so that we'll take a look at some of the specific costing overall, and then we'll have some further conversations about where they might be seeing need, and then we'll run up where they might be seeing need back against how council feels need is, with an idea that the outside areas might be more concerned, and then we'll bring the whole deal back to council again when we've got a bit further information again.
Thank you, Ms. Braddock. That's it for me, Madam Mayor. Back to you.
Okay, but
Would it be possible to put the volume on this one?
Okay,
Oh, I don't understand.
We don't
Okay,
hear,
so
advertisement.
before concluding this committee, okay, there's a request to have the volume brought higher here in this room and maybe the unit behind us, because we don't hear clearly what's being said from those that are not in council chambers. Is that possible?
I don't understand, Madam Mayor.
OK. Ben, numéro un, il y a deux choses. OK. Avant de conclure le comité, je ne sais pas si c'était clair qu'on attend pour d'autres données avant de procéder, ou s'il y avait assez de gens qui ont dit oui, qui avaient l'intérêt de vouloir avancer avec cette initiative ici.
I don't know what she did with it.
Confus parce que l'email de Madame Dobras,
Ah,
Là, on comprend mieux.
il faut l'information. Donc, je ne sais pas. Je sais qu'il y en a qui veulent avoir plus des bins à quelque part, mais où qu'on va les mettre, ça prendrait, il faut que ça continue. C'est pas nous autres ce soir qui va décider ça, où qu'on va les mettre, dans quelle communauté ou wherever. C'est moi j'ai compris.
OK. Donc, si je vois que le conseiller Denis là, qui envoie la main, là.
This question will be, thank you, Mr. Chair, for Mrs. Craddock. So at the end of the day, we are going to opt in for that weigh-in system that they have so that we can start collecting data. Is that right?
So I'll certainly reach out to the provider. Like I said, it didn't used to be a free service, but if it now is a free service, sure. You know,
All right.
if there's cost, then I'll roll that back in to council before I engage that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's okay, Mr. Councillor Denny, that's a good point.
Okay, but, okay, so I just want to make sure I understood correctly from consensus from all members, Mr. Chair, because seems, I just want to make sure I understood clearly what was the consensus of the committee discussion pertaining to the installation of these bins. So there is direction that, yes, we're interested, but we want to know where they would go, which community, and that's what we're waiting for?
Yes, you're right, but who's going to decide which community? That's my point. I don't know, will there be a committee in place to do the research where it's going to be? That's my point.
Well, I think, why don't you ask members of council if they're interested in having these in each community, and B, finding out if there's additional information that's gathered from each community. Elisa?
Every region, and then also with the cost of it too. So, okay, I can do a round table again. Councillor Rivon.
Alicia has her hand up, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Craddock.
Yeah, what I think might be helpful for council, and the health unit kind of alluded to it when they were here for their petition, is they actually have people that they talk to, people with what they call lived experience and things like that. And they might actually give us a bit of a feedback first on, hey, we think based on what they know that these areas are where, you know, we should be focusing our effort, because they've got people that know. And then if those suggestions come back to council can kind of say, yeah, that makes sense to me, or no, that doesn't make sense based on you know what your interpretation is. But again, letting the health unit lead that location a little bit by their expertise, and then seeing how it feels against your knowledge of you know your wards and your constituents.
Okay, thank you. That answers your question, Mayor?
Yeah, it does. And can we also ensure that the Centre Alliance is also involved in that process, because they're involved in dealing with clients from each of the communities of West Nipissing, and they do have a lot of statistical information?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
And this will come back again.
Yeah, yes. Okay, that's it for me, Madam Mayor. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. On procède avec le prochain comité, the next committee, and that would be Public Works, and I'll pass it on to the chair, Conseiller Bon.
Merci, Madame Mairesse. Thank you, Madame Mayor. It was requested that we put an update on the capital projects for 2022. And I'll ask Mr. Ramial if he can go through the lists and give you a general idea as to what's happening up to date. Mr. Ramial?
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So I've prepared a capital projects 2022 update. We'll start with asphalt resurfacing, patching, granular A sidewalks, large diameter culverts, brushing and ditching onto facilities. Starting with asphalt, Quartier Principal East to Saint-Amour is complete. Chateau Terrace, crews finished pulverizing. We have finished setting grades. And the asphalt resurfacing is scheduled for this Thursday, pending weather permitting. Front Street curb lane, so we didn't get the funding, unfortunately, but we will repair the manhole in front of Mr. Gas in the curb lane. That is tentatively scheduled for late September or early October. Garden Village Road from the Duchesne Municipal Drain onto Coburn Road is complete. John Street, Nipissing to Clark, and then Clark to Clarsall. We had earmarked in the budget $450,000 to resurface when I think council had consensus that we were looking at sidewalk, concrete barrier curb. So kind of a broader scope of work than just a resurfacing. When I did approach the consultant to give us a budgetary cost, obviously the cost increased significantly, and we nonetheless don't have an ECA yet. But those costs should come back to council because they are significantly more. Olivier surface treatment is scheduled for the week of October 3rd. Pilon Street is complete. 3rd, King Street intersection to Roy is scheduled the last week of September. Moving on to patching, Cache Bay manholes, the frost tapers, we said we would do a couple a year, so those two are complete. Champagne, granular A resurfacing is complete. Coyote Ridge is complete. Crosby is complete. Delorme is complete. Pine Poultry is complete. Rabelge is complete. Smiley is complete. Sidewalks, Coursol, Ethel to La Chance is complete. Bridge repairs we're just waiting on a finalized schedule. Elizabeth Henning has been in communication with the contractor, so we should receive a schedule shortly. Brushing and ditching, Alphonse is complete. Bellefeuille is complete. Dokis Road, so the 25% of our section is complete. Dutrisac Road tributaries, we had a little bit of a delay in acquiring a legal outlet for our drainage, but the RFQ is ready to be posted, so it should be posted at some point this week or next. Eugene Road is complete. Gautier is complete. La Brosse is complete. Pierre Road complete. Canal Dutrisac to the east dead end is complete. Canal Nipissing to Dutrisac, we are holding on pending the decision of council to loop the water main. I didn't think it was good money to be spent on brushing and ditching when we're going to be just potentially redigging the road and redoing this work. So I think our money will be better served towards the project, or if council opts out of the project, then we go and complete the brushing and ditching with the money in budget. Roberts is complete. Rachon is complete. Roy from 3rd to Majo is complete, and Tamarack is complete. Moving on to facilities, the snow dump land acquisition The asking price was over our budget, so we managed to sign another lease for this year. So we don't, we're not stuck with nowhere to put snow. The Sturgeon Falls Garage new office, I just received the final documents. So we're reviewing those and we'll be posting an RFQ shortly. That completes the report.
I'll see. Thanks, Monsieur Lemieux. Is there any questions from the councillors? Madame Meres?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First and foremost, thank you, Mr. Lemieux, for the update. Greatly appreciated, and kudos for all the work that has been completed this season. That's great. Pertaining to Front Street, no, sorry, John Street. Okay, the funds that were dedicated for John Street, the $450,000, council recently reallocated those funds towards the bridge. Would that be the north and south bridge?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Lemieux?
I will have to ask the CAO or Director of Corporate Services. I wasn't at that meeting, sorry.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, it was the redirection of some of the funds from the John Street project. Yes, to the north-south bridge.
Okay.
That was the one that came in so far over budget.
Okay, so the north and south bridge is no longer 90,000, but if memory serves me right, it exceeds 400,000.
No, not 400.
100.
Sean is looking at it.
Yeah.
The 300,000 range.
Sean?
Yep, I'm just trying to pull up the file here, Jay, sorry.
Yep. We've got time.
Oh, yes, we do. Yes.
Yeah, Sean, I've got it here.
Yep.
The north-south bridge was 357,000.
357,000. Okay. Does the 357 include the 90,000, or is it 357 over the 90?
No, 357 is the total bid.
Okay. Okay, that's what I wanted to find out. Okay. And the other, if I may, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the other question that I had, there were, I did receive a phone call for Chateau Terrasse pertaining to the road, which appears to be moved with the asphalt. Seems that the road is going to be set in a different location, and it's going to be having an effect for several households where their driveway will not be reaching the road no more.
Madam Mayor, did you receive my
yes.
response today?
Well, it was vague.
Well, so the response is that staff, which this is a capital project, staff has, and I don't want to get into the weeds in terms of some of the issues, but staff have been on this file. They've handled this file appropriately. Some of the policies that we have are obviously 33 feet from a center and all of that, but we also have a policy of ensuring that we replace what was there. Staff met with the individuals, not just the person that called you, but others. And they all came to the agreement that, yes, they in fact are right. It became more of a snow removal issue. And the manager, Sean, indicated that this would be something to call in at snow time and to be addressed at that time. So this issue is resolved. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's what I wanted to find out, because at the end of the day, there were several questions that I did ask on the email. If the road is being moved, that was one thing.
Yeah, well,
And
it's an operational issue, Madam Mayor, and it isn't being moved, is the answer.
it's not being moved?
Absolutely not. We would never
Okay,
move.
that's what I wanted to find out, because I'm sure that,
Abundantly
And-
clear.
pardon?
that's abundantly clear that we would never move a road from a capital project that was not intended to be put back in the same area without having a very clear discussion on the landowners if we're encroaching or what have you. But certainly what we do and what any public works department does, I think that I've ever dealt with, is ensure that the work that's being done is putting back the state of the area in the manner that it existed before the work. And this has been 20 years here, and I can assure you elsewhere as well.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And twofold is some residents did receive notification that the asphalt would only be done next year. So people were under the impression that it wasn't going to be paved this season.
I guess they're lucky.
So that's why I'm just bringing up questions.
Staff or
Well,
I haven't had a chance to pull up the notification letter. It may have been a typo, but I haven't had a chance to verify. But
Okay.
I find it funny that because it's the same letter that went out to everybody, but anything is possible. You know, the clerks are human. They could have made a typo, but I don't see it because we sent out, you know, a mass mailouts and they were all cut and paste letters. So, but I'll look into it.
So the bottom line is you'll be pleased to know, Madam Mayor and Council, that the individuals that had a concern no longer have a concern. And thank you, Sean and Liz, for taking care of that.
Okay, thank you for the information. And can I just ask a question for the snow dump land acquisition with the lease agreement? So would that be the lease agreement for the location behind Comfort Inn near our public works garage?
Through Mr. Chair, yes, that is correct.
Okay, perfect. I just needed that. I was just curious if it was that location. Merci.
thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, everyone. Is there anyone else with more questions? Okay, Lisa Nickad, please.
Okay, well, I don't, I'm trying to put it in my head where it is, but under brushing, t'as la rue Canel, puis bracket Nipissing to date exact. OK, comment que Nipissing touche, je peux pas le mettre dans ma tête, Monsieur Romiard.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
OK, quand tu vas dans brushing, là, t'as Canel, bracket Nipissing to date exact. Je peux pas le mettre dans ma tête tout ce que c'est parce que la Nipissing n'est pas sur le même sens. Comment qu'elle fait pour les connecter avec ça, là? Ça a l'air comme ça connecte.
Donc, la section de Quesnel entre Nipissing et Dutrisac, ce segment-là. Non?
OK, encore là, la rue Nipissing, OK, je ne peux pas le viser parce que la rue Nipissing. OK, I got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Good.
Okay.
It's no question. Any more questions? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Demial and Mr. Craddock and Dave for your response. Greatly appreciated. And I now give the floor to Madame Menace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On procède avec le prochain comité Community Services, service communautaire. And here we have one item under the agenda, and that would be Community Services Capital Projects. And I'll pass it on to our Director of Community Services and Economic Development, Stéphane Poulin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I provided council with an update originally in August, and so there has been modifications made to the capital project update for September. It's up to date as of today. Without basically going through every line item, as council has had an opportunity to review the document, I do want to point out a couple items. The two pickup trucks, that's my mistake. I said contract awarded recommendation August 9th. The contract has been awarded to the successful bidder. Trucks are on order. We don't currently have timelines as far as receiving the two pickup trucks that we've ordered, but we are in the queue. And as soon as they are available, they will be shipped to us. Secondly, I want to highlight the Cache Bay Trailer Park Pool Rehabilitation Project. I provided a supporting document in consultation with the engineer that we had retained. The scope of work has increased if we want to meet all specifications and building code requirements. So repairing the Cache Bay Trailer Park pool has increased by almost $67,000 from our original $90,000 budget. We're looking at a $156,900 budget to repair the pool at this time. As I did state in the capital update report, that exceeds the original budget, and we recommend not to proceed with repairs until council has determined a long-term plan for the park, whether we continue ownership or operation versus selling the park to a private entity. So I leave it to council through you, Madam Mayor, for any questions pertaining to any of our capital projects.
Any questions or comments? Conseiller Lise, Conseiller Leo.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Field covered rink ongoing. So did we receive, were we approved with the grant because we did not hear anything about it?
At the time that we provided at the time council deliberated budget, we did provide a note to council that we did receive a grant. This was provided to you, I believe, back in March or April. We have yet to hear back from the minister or the ministry on a funding announcement. So until such time as the ministry advises us, we officially can't proceed and make big announcements. That's left to the provincial politicians, but obviously there's word on that now.
I apologize, but I don't remember hearing that, but that's good to know. Thank you. The second one, as far as the pool, well, if we cannot, that project cannot be completed for, obviously, for this summer. So if we had allocated at that point of time $90,000, could it be transferred to next year?
I believe all unused capital funds remain within the community services capital budget for future years' use. So that would remain within the capital budget for community services moving forward. Like any other project, if we come under budget, if there's money left, that money is capitalized for future use for the department.
And the money specifically will be marked for the pool, or it could go anywhere?
It could go anywhere. It's going to depend what council provides us as far as directions and approved projects for 2023 and years beyond that.
As a response to the question of Conseiller Lise, yes, there could be a request for a dedicated reserve specifically for the pool decided upon this council. Comme on fait avec d'autres initiatives, on peut dédier une réserve spécifique pour un projet spécifique.
Please, so.
Madam Mayor?
Wait, I got you, Conseiller Leo. So you got your answer?
Well, yeah, I got my answer, and I think Mr. Barbeau said c'est so. Did it mean that yes, you can do that, or?
Certainly you can do that, and it can be reversed as well. I think that the logical course here is that the good news is that the money stays in reserve should the present course of action continue. The bad news is that the future council will make a decision as to what that future course is with that land, what its usage is, and where we're supporting and not supporting. That's a future council decision. Thank you.
Point of clarification to our CEO, and now continue with the members of council. Why does it have to be the future council that decides the course of action for the Cache Bay Park?
Because
when this council, no, proceed please with the answer.
Oh, thank you. Because staff will not be bringing it forward and binding a future council on a philosophical matter. And that's one reason philosophically and from a government perspective. I think that at a certain point in time, you kind of want to let the incoming council strategically decide where they're going. The other reason is that we simply wouldn't be able to get to it by the end of your tenure.
Conseiller Leo?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, questions for Ms. Craddock. Even if we approve the 67,000, I mean, we're lame duck council, so we can't even make a decision if I'm correct.
If I may, Madam Chair, that is a bit of a discussion for myself and the clerk, but you're correct. You know, you can't incur the entire expense because you are lame duck, and so it's unbudgeted of greater than 50,000. So you can't do that. I'm not even sure, and I'd have to get some advice. I'm not even sure that you can actually commit a $90,000 special reserve with the existing funds, because that's actually a change in budget. When we do those amendments to reserve, there's actually a change in budgets, and it's greater than the 50,000 again. So I'm not sure that the council has the ability to create that dedicated reserve at this time even.
Okay, thank you. So it's a moot.
Correct. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, it's a moot point, right?
I believe it is, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Conseiller Burley?
Thank you, Madam. I guess that not answers, but that kind of we're on the same page. We should leave it to the next council to move forward or cancel it, whatever they want to do with it. It should be a decision for the next council. Thank you.
Conseiller Denis?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question pour Stéphane. Le parc d'enfants à la vigne, ça grouille. Il n'y a pas d'équipement, I guess, mais il n'y a pas du préparage du terrain que vous devez faire avant, ou ça va-tu commencer, ou si ça va juste attendre la dernière minute? Ou...
Ça va, tout va dépendre de quand l'équipement rentre. Once we basically award a contract, we're at the contractor's mercy and their suppliers as well. Ideally, the playground would have been completed months ago. They were able only to complete several parks that were on our list of rehabilitation and new parks. Unfortunately, the park in Lavigne and on Janin Street, they've yet to receive the equipment. So we're waiting on that. Now, what happens is there's a lot of clay on that site. And so we've got to make sure that when the contractor goes on site and does the site prep, that we're not just creating a huge mud bath. So they're monitoring the site. Our staff are there. They're looking at it. They're giving us dates, but they're always constantly being pushed back. So when the equipment does come in, if the soil can take it and the site can take the work that is required before they actually install the equipment, they will get it done. But again, we're at the mercy of the contractor and the supply chain issues.
Okay, merci. Je pensais que le terrain, c'est pas préparé par le contracteur, c'était pour être nous autres. Je ne sais pas pourquoi je pensais à ça.
Ouais, non, le contracteur, il a du travail à faire sur le site aussi.
C'est lui qui fournit l'équipement.
C'est ça.
Okay. Merci.
Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres commentaires ou questions? OK. Moi, je vais juste soulever le désappointement avec la construction de la piscine pour le parc de Cache Bay. I am disappointed with the outcome of our act with the pool for the Cache Bay Park. Initially, before our budget process for 2022, when it was brought to our attention that there were problems with the pool, which was last season, we were given a report of what it would cost to try to get it operational or to even bring it up to speed. And the amount was lower than 90,000, but then at the time it was stated, well, we're not going to spend just a small amount of money. We're going to wait until we get to budget. We come to budget and it was understood 90,000, but maybe I'm wrong. But from the discussion that we had at committee, it was a new pool. We were going with a new pool. I wasn't under the impression that we were fixing the existing pool. And we were given $90,000, which was much higher than the initial report. Now, when I look at the additional information, to fill the deep end of a pool, 22,000, which is part of the 156, it appears that we're looking at repairing the existing pool and that it was not a new pool. So I'd like to know, what did council approve? Did we approve for the installation of a new pool, or was it to repair the existing pool that's in place? I just want to clarify that.
So I believe council approved the go-ahead to look at what needed to be done, and council approved us having to hire an engineer to look at it. We are a public facility. We do play by different rules in the sense that we're not a private entity. So if I'd have a pool at my home, I don't go by the same rules that a municipality owns a public pool. So the building code is different for us. Legislation is different for us. Health and safety requirements are different for us. So when you get the building official involved and you get engineers involved, they understand the building code. They understand what we need to do to meet provincial requirements to allow people to use our facility. And so after we engaged an engineer, their expert matters, they looked at the pool and they gave us proper recommendation for us to complete in order for that pool to be reopened at a given time. So if I'm not mistaken, council authorized us to move forward, and that's how we did it. And that's the recommendation received.
Okay, but was it questioned at the time that we had the budget deliberation that it was going to be a new pool, or we were engaging in repairing the existing pool?
My understanding was we were to look at the current situation and move forward in the manner that expert engineers, which are experts, would advise us on. And this is what we're presenting to council.
Okay, it still doesn't clear the answer for me. I guess what I can do is backtrack on my.
Madam Mayor, if I can clarify whether council thought this was a new pool or a new construction, the building code and engineers have told us to move forward in this manner. So that's what we're recommending to council.
No, and I get that. I'm not debating the engineer, but I was under the impression that it was a new pool. And when I brought up the issue a few months ago where there was a rumor in the park that there would be no pool during the season of 2022, and by the looks of it, no pool for 2023. The last time that I did ask the question is that there was a report that was being reviewed by one of our facilities manager, and we were waiting for an update from that report. So it's understandable that from 90,000 to 156, yeah, the project was kept on hold. And but the entire issue of the Cache Bay Park was a contentious issue for the last 2 years. We didn't know whether or not if we wanted to keep the park or if we wanted to sell the park and get out of the business of a park. But there were 6 out of 8 people that made the determination that we wanted a new pool, or we thought a new pool was being built or would be built. And I just want to leave it at that. I'll verify my records because I don't think I'm the only one that thought that there was a new pool that was being installed.
But Madam Mayor, if you look at the scope of work and the work required at that facility, it's like taking an old pool but making it new again. So the extensive amount of work, it would have ended up a new pool.
I think that's the point that needs to be indicated here, is that when somebody originally, if I can put a different bent on it, there was an issue with respect to what needed to be addressed. And certainly, it's a little bit like that show, Love It or List It, where, they say 100 grand and then it becomes 200 grand. What they say is, if you want to get this way, you'll get that way. And there are no other problems. What happens with a pool that's like 40 years old is that even to do what you wanted to do, it got down into the weeds, and then it got down. And then we find out that the majority of that area is rotten. And so they need to, for all intents and purposes, build a new pool. What they're doing is they're chipping away things they can't replace, and they get to a point where they build something else. And so I would agree with everything that Steph Poulin is saying, in the sense that, once we get people in, and then TSSA and the recreation safety people and all of that come into play, what happens with a good old contractor saying, I can probably get this going for about 20 grand. And so when you ask us to give you a quick response of what we know right now, yeah, wait and see what the final product is. And perhaps council or staff should not provide you with that quick information if it's going to mislead you that much. So, if we knew that it was going to be 156, we certainly wouldn't have offered the 30 or 40 or whatever we offered, right? So now we're at a point, though, is that council had made a decision, it's in the public record, of non-renewing, and now council is at a point where council needs to make a decision about that property. And as you indicated, Madam Mayor, and so to make any expenditure or to commit to any expenditure and bind a council on a usage for that property that a future council may not want to use is probably not the best solution, in my opinion. And so what I would recommend is that we have put the money aside as normal plans, and that, we will look at the best usage for that property and the best way of running that property should it continue to be a trailer park. But it could be something else. It could be a subdivision, but that's a council decision to make. Thank you.
Okay, and I agree with that. It's a council decision to make. And I'll just conclude by saying, at the end of the day, it's unfortunate that this information didn't come forward sooner. So this council could have made a decision, because we've been dealing with this file for 2 years, and dealing with a pool issue for 2 years now.
I agree with you 100%.
And I'm just speaking on behalf of those that do have trailers and pay a yearly fee, because right now they do not know what will happen to them next season. And what they do know now is that they were anxious and they were dancing for a pool this season and were being patient. Now they don't even know what their future will lie for next season. So that is disappointing as an elected official speaking on their behalf. Conseiller Chris. You're on mute, I think, Conseiller Chris.
Oh, sorry. I would like to make a motion for a break. Recess.
Okay, well, if we can just finish this committee and then I'll deal with your motion. Are there any other questions pertaining to community services for the projects? And I guess my final comment or question would be, can we get an update from the ministry regarding their decision for the funding? Because this has been an ongoing project and we applied for funding and we got news, and it's been quite a few months that we got the news. At least this way, can we do a follow-up of finding out exactly when we're going to be releasing that to the public?
Sure, Madam Mayor, I'd be happy to help you. That might be a political request. It's probably a better avenue than administratively. I think it should come from you. Thank you.
Okay, well, just send me the info and I'll do a follow-up, and it'd be a privilege to do so, so we can move forward with that project. Further questions or comments pertaining to community services projects? Conseiller Lise?
Well, I want to state that I'm also very disappointed about the pool and the fact that I think that as far as money, I understand that this council cannot engage in approving spending money. Like, I do understand that, but when it comes to make decision for that park, we've been talking about it for 2 years. I really think that this council needs to finish the discussion. We did one part. I think we need to finish the discussion. We didn't even not deal with the what do you call that petition we got, and we had the discussion, and I think it will be up to us, because we're the one that had all the information. We discuss it. Why wait for somebody to make a decision on that? Because we're not involving, we just make a decision, we're keep it or not keeping it. So people will know what to do, because right now they have to wait another season. So that's my comment.
Okay, so for concluding the discussion to our CEO, can we adopt or vote on a motion at our next meeting of dedicating the amount of money, the $90,000 dedicated for the pool? Can we do that even though we're linked up We're not looking at spending more money, but the fact that the money that we had approved to be spent this year, can we approve a dedicated reserve for the pool?
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Jay.
It was probably a good thing at one time. I could tell you that that typically council can pass such resolutions, yeah, absolutely, to dedicate those reserves. I'm not 100% sure what the legislation is about binding future corporations from a financial transaction, nor would I be as aware of the information. I would have to research, but with respect to the lame duck and what the provisions, perhaps, and I enjoy this immensely when Elisa proves me wrong. So Elisa, if you have additional information, I would be entertained by that.
Thanks, but actually my answer would be a lot the same. It's actually a budget amendment, even if it's moving dollars from one spot to another spot, it is actually a budget amendment. So my belief is that this council cannot engage in a budget amendment of $90,000. However, I would, like the CAO indicated, have to do further research if you want a really definite answer, but I don't believe that this council is gonna be able to do that.
Okay. But did we not do during lame duck changes pertaining to amendments for the bridge and not spending the money of John Street? And was that not during lame duck?
I think that was prior to lame duck.
Yep.
Okay, but I'd like to be able to
And
get.
it wasn't doing a dedicated reserve either.
No, but we had recommended a dedicated reserve for John Street and it was defeated.
Fine.
Yeah, so is it possible, I'd like to know, because if there is an opportunity that a dedicated reserve could be done, I'm sure that there's probably some members of council that would move and second such a resolution.
Absolutely. My response to you, Madam Mayor, is that if it is in your purview or authorities to pass such a resolution, after we've done a little bit of research, certainly we'll bring it to the next meeting. If the resolution is there at the next meeting, it's because certainly we haven't been able to see any roadblocks in that. And if it isn't, it's feel question me, but it's probably because it's not not legally appropriate. But my opinion is that in general, without being lame duck, this council can dedicate unused reserves to a specific purpose next year. What I'm indicating to you too is that the future council also then is able to reverse that if they so choose. If it's a great council decision, they likely will agree with you. But I'm just indicating to you that.
So we'll wait for the information to come forward. That would be great. Appreciate it.
Great.
Okay, so we have a mover
We have a
for a recess, and your motion, Councilor Chris, is it according to procedures or 15 minutes? 15 minutes.
No, I'm fine with 10, but whatever you guys want, I'm easy, just a break.
Well, we need a resolution, and I just want to give direction to the clerk. So is it 10 minutes or 15 minutes?
15 minutes. I'll have the time to do nothing.
So Jose Ali's is moving 15 minutes recess. Is there a seconder? Jose Chris?
I believe that, okay. It is moved by Councillor Lisa Nical and seconded by Councillor Fisher at approximately 8:14 p.m. and motion was tabled for a 15-minute recess.
All in favor? No objection, carried. Oh my God. How much food?
Ah, bem interesse pour comment en avoir, mais bien fort. En arrière, là, tu vois, j'ai tout en arrière, mais sont pas. Ah oui, tout d'abord.
So, elle se lève,
Oh, ben,
Merci,
c'est
ça, ça sera pas long, ça va marcher.
Mais t'essaies de faire marcher, elle marche avec ça, elle rentre avec sa petite marchette. Mais si t'essaies d'apprendre à faire marcher, elle se lève. Aussitôt que t'essaies de faire marcher, elle est assise. Elle est peureuse, I guess. Je sais pas. D'après toi, non. Je sais que les médecins t'apprennent. Tout est correct. Tu es avec elle.
OK.
Un bel ensemble, ça.
Hey,
I know, hein?
pas de visage, bon.
Oui. So at least I'm getting seen.
No problem.
C'est vrai que nous, à nous, dans
Dans les candés, Yvonne?
Non, c'est-
Je vais la guide par une place.
Oui, je t'ai prêté des billets.
Ah, on a pas.
On compte sur 2 dents, je compte quand même.
Ah oui? Ah. C'est une incroyable.
Oh.
Voilà, ça, c'est bon. Regarde la face.
Oui, bon, bien.
C'est cute, hein?
Yes.
C'est différent, ça regarde.
I'm just going to direct the question to you, Lenny. Are we at the 50-minute point right now?
No.
No?
Une minute.
Une minute? Okay.
Mon téléphone va aller bien. C'est si elle là. Hein?
Dans quoi l'info est allée?
Les affaires qui vont aller vite. Ben, deux mises, là. Ouais.
voir si qu'on avait approuvé d'un dossier, fait que c'est adopté, I guess.
Approuvé quoi?
Non, on est bien ici, montant.
Moi, on n'avait pas, on n'a jamais discuté du lease, on ne savait pas comment.
Non, parce que oui, là, oui, on avait discuté, on avait eu en principe.
Okay, so we are at 8:28 and we do have quorum. So we are able to proceed. And the next issue, the next committee on the agenda, environmental services. I'll pass it on to the chair, Conseiller Bruley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have one item on the agenda, and it's the Environmental Service Committee, River Valley Landfill Site Explanation of Environmental Services Board. And with this, I'll pass this on to our CAO, Mr. Barbeau. He has an explanation for us. You're on mute.
Apologize. Excuse me. So I suppose I'm kind of confused with respect to what I'm supposed to present on or not present on. I guess, and the reason being is that I don't know what the issue is, but there seems to be an issue with respect to the governance of our landfills in the outlying areas. And then there seems to be an implication about River Valley specifically, although that's never been requested. So I replied to a memo on issues because I thought that we tried as a staff to respond to requests of who sits where and whatever. And though that might be germane to the public interest, to elections, to whatever, it doesn't really fall under our radar with respect to accounting controls and what we need to have in possession. And so Lisa and I, Ms. Craddock, and I attempted to explain that in previous meeting. Now, I asked Ms. Craddock when, because there's an implication that we're hiding something, when was this originally brought formally other than innuendo? And I did get a reply, but I can only reply on what, let's say the last month. So I don't remember if it's been asked for the last 5, 6, or 20 years, because I don't recall that. But as my memo indicates, the governance of certain landfills. So, let me go back to, a statement back that everybody spews. Back in 1999, there was an amalgamation and an annexation. There was an amalgamation of 5 towns and 17.5 unincorporated townships. The 17.5 unincorporated township used to get the services from the government of Ontario, but the government of Ontario had different mechanisms in those unincorporated townships to ensure that services in those areas were delivered. Now, there were road boards that took care of getting a certain amount of money, except for capital, to maintain roads. There were the landfill site committees. There was probably fire. I wasn't there at that time. So when the municipality took over in 1999, obviously we're taking over the roads because they're now municipal roads, and so there's no need for roads boards. It's about a year prior to my arrival, but clearly what was indicated to me in a very strong terms by the council of the day, and I believe we still have, which 2 councillors who are present now, a mayor and one of the councillors were there at that time, agreed that they would keep in the transition the existing structure for the landfill site corporations that were run in the unincorporated areas, and there were 4 of them. There was Leving, Muskesong, Kipling or Hugel, and River Valley. And so we continued, in that way. I have to tell you that staff continued in that way because politically we were driven to do so, and it was cheaper. And so if we can please our council and can please our residents, we were pleased. Having said that, there, we were also very concerned about the management and how they were run, but we kept on that way because it was quite a bit cheaper. So I'm going to digress and just indicate to you that to run a municipal site versus one of these sites, all things being equal, is about $15,000 cheaper to do it this way than through our our regular landfills. And so if you do 15,000 times the 4, that's 60,000. If you do that by the 20, I believe real fast is 1.2 million. So what we've done is managed council of the day, because we certainly weren't going to be operating without council approval. But with the council of the day, we continued to operate that way. Recently, we indicated in the last year or two, the governance structure and the legislative framework with MOE and others have been such that, we're going, and MOL, Ministry of Labor, are such that we're going to have to tighten up and we're going to have to take control, because if we continue to let things that we know may be deficient continue. And so we switched over from the Kipling landfill to a local, to QP. So they're now, it's no longer a nonprofit corporation landfill. We're presently looking at replacing Living landfill in that way as well, because the last employee of Living Landfill Corporation has tendered his resignation, and so we're in the transition for that. So that's the purpose for what we were doing. And then so to give you a bit of a concept, and I'll get progressively more adversarial if you want, so that you can get excited about replying. But to me, there's no issue. So basically, and I started here on September 18, 2000, and there'd be individuals, regardless, back in the back in the Living days, Bob Blake, as an example, would come in and bring his budget and his request for landfill services in Living. And I'm deliberately staying away from River Valley because they're all the same. Same thing with River Valley. Kipling would come in and they would give in about 14,000, 12,000, 15,000, 16,000, but they would itemize it and we would look at it. And we would have local landfill managers that would look at it. We would look at it as accountants, and we would then blend it in. We would make suggestions. No, you don't need this year, because we need to keep the rate at certain parts. So we do some thinking for council, apologize for that ahead of time. And so we kind of present a budget that we think should be presented philosophically at that time. And then the council then gets that. So then they approve the general budget, and there are 2 budgets in West Nipissing, or in landfills. One of them is obviously Nipissing Landfill Corporation. And so that's done with a private corporation, not unlike the other corporations, by the way, that's not being scrutinized right now. And then there are other smaller corporations that come in, and that forms a larger landfill corporation. And then council would approve that. And then we would then basically provide them with, and this is probably digging into the weeds, but it seems like some may want to, we would probably provide them with all of their money at once, but somebody in their cleverness decided that maybe we should do interim payments and just give them, quarterly or trimesterly payments, and that would be the case. And so in the case of River Valley, to answer the specific questions of last week, the $5,000 is an interim payment for services that are being provided at River Valley Landfill. If council would care to verify past disbursements, they would probably see over $5,000 disbursements prior to the one in question, indicating the exact same process for quite a bit of time. And so what we're doing is, let's say it's 15,750, there'll be 5,000, 5,000, 5,750, whatever, and we manage that. Now, what are our accounting controls? Because that seemed to be called into question by those who are not involved in accounting control, obviously. Well, obviously, we basically measure that off of what work is being there. And we have municipal managers that are responsible for our landfill sites. I'm not going to mention a name, but we have a landfill site manager who attends on a regular basis and knows and works with these corporations and deals with the on-site people to ensure that the money is spent in the manner accordingly. So so what was put before me or before council was this insinuation, question, comment, innocent question about how we manage our landfills, and that is the reply. That is how we have managed our landfills, and that is how we continue to manage our landfills, and that there are checks and balances that we have, and that council is well aware of, and in fact, our treasurer, director of corporate services, was complimented on her diligence in accounting controls for a variety of past files that are not too distant. But if we feel there are anomalies in our accounting processes, or that there's any there have been nefarious acts, we certainly would be on it and catching it. And we feel comfortable that there is no issue here in any of our landfill sites that would indicate to us that there's any malfeasance or anything like that. And as again, in 2015, 16, I don't want to bring up the past. It was very clear that that there was evidence bringing that up. So to answer the question specifically, and I think we indicated it off the record, but I'm going to indicate it on the record. We do not have any specific information, though if we would share it, it's not a record. Like if you're looking at municipal conflict or municipal, not conflict of interest, but municipal freedom of information, it is not a record we have in our possession as to who sits on corporate boards, be it these hangovers from West Nipissing or MNR, or any other corporation. What we are concerned with is that they have their WSIB compliance, that they follow our health and safety practices, that they're aware of the following issues, and that we're fine. And then we basically proceed accordingly, and we monitor their expenditures. So that's one. So to ask the question and to imply by some people out in the, I had some issues shared with me that I find comical, just because I'm in the business. So, I find some of this social media stuff kind of funny, because like I say, we're audited. This is not low-lying fruit for us or high-lying fruit. We would not be compromising the ethics of a municipality on this kind of stuff. And so there is no issue here. Bagedo Township, I could tell you anecdotally, there was Polydao Rochefort when I started here. I don't know who it is now. I can tell you anecdotally that yes, Rowley, I understood, because when I started here, I was called to the River Valley landfill with MOE because there was a fire, and I understood that the directors, there were 3 or 4 of them at the time, were there, and there were some changes that we needed to make, and so I knew who they were. But in general, it isn't really something that we need to know, other than things going out of whack. And if they went out of whack, we would catch it because we know what it costs to run a landfill. We just do, and to imply otherwise is kind of silly. So I don't know if Elisa, if you have anything to add from an accounting control perspective, or.
Thank you. I think you've covered the ground fairly well. If a lot of it's because I'm also a little bit uncertain between what the request was and and information that we could provide, and information that seems to be circulating out in the public. So you're correct. From an accounting control perspective, we have received services for the funds that we have paid, and we have controls over the fact that we receive services for funds we have paid. Every corporation that exists has a board. I don't have the corporate directors for 763535 Ontario Inc., and we give off a lot of money to 763535 Ontario Inc. Without the corporate history. Usually we wouldn't go and look at corporate structure of an organization unless we were concerned with fraud like we had a few years ago. And I do want to take the discussion of fraud off the table, because like I said, we have been receiving services for the funds that we provide, and we receive budgets and sort of such like that. So there's no concern of fraud here. However, based on what I've been hearing out in the public, I don't think fraud is the concern, and that's where, as the CAO said, it's a little bit confusing what is actually trying to be achieved here. It's not that we're hiding information, it's the information doesn't exist. And as if the question is one of procurement, in that, council has never in recent years taken these landfill sites out for an RFP process. That goes back to, again, what the CAO said, that as we're looking at these, we're looking at rolling them over to municipal operations, not renewing other events with that. If it's a question of conflict of interest, which is completely separate from, what we would do from a procurement or a financial or reporting interest, that's a question for the Integrity Commissioner. And as Mr. Barbeau said, these payments have been happening for longer than I've been here, for certainly longer than the member of council that seems to be under question now has been sitting on this council. And certainly if there's a question, it should go to the Integrity Commissioner. And I believe in this case it actually has. And the Integrity Commissioner has actually ruled on this, that there is no conflict. So, I'm not sure what horse we're trying to beat here, but I believe that Mr. Barbeau has given an explanation of how the landfill corps work.
Right.
Thank you, Madam Corporate Services, Lisa.
Can I just add?
Go ahead, Mr. CEO.
So if I can put a finer point on it, recalling what I might have written on Friday, I'm not entering into the political weed of this interpersonal stuff that may or may not exist. Where I am speaking now is to defend the integrity of the organization. So as CAO, I have no problem with, no, I don't. I do have a problem with slanderous, as you would know. But I have a problem with members of the public opining. But when we start having issues with respect to the integrity or the insinuation that professional staff, chartered accountants, CAs who audit us, volunteers who ensured that these landfill sites stayed open, and there's these insinuations that tend to undermine them, I tend to get my back up. And I won't get involved in into the political ramifications. But if you want to start playing that game, you better be right, because I am not going to allow, at my own peril, I'm not going to allow members of council to impugn the reputation of the staff here that work. And no, I'm going to.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. I have the right to. I think you're getting.
No, just point your point of order, please.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Point of order.
We're getting off the
Okay,
subject matter.
you're getting off the subject matter, and I think you might add a comment if you wanted to end. But we do have question, and we have the right to ask the question. And you gave your explanation. We got the letter. I mean, so I think it's time that we say. Or we ask what we need to ask, because I don't know where you're going with that. Well, I know where you're going with that, and I know what you're doing with that. But at some point of time, the point of order is, let's get back on track. You said what you had to say.
Thank you.
Madam Alicia had said that she agreed with Monsieur Barbeau, so now we should.
Okay, your point of order is taken and it's overruled. Could you keep going, Monsieur Barbeau, please? Mr.
Well, the
CEO.
only point I would,
I wish to appeal that point of order because, you know what, Councilor Broly, based on
Yes.
what overruled, because the subject matter is what we're supposed to be discussing. Not
And he is.
personal. No, he's getting
No,
into
no.
personal weeds or
Okay,
weeds,
so
political
will go
weeds,
to a vote.
which is out of context and
we
does
will go
not.
to a vote. Madam Mayor, if we will go to a vote, you are appealing the decision, we will go to a vote. So I will ask Mr. Jain, Councilor Jain, how do you vote on this appeal?
Can I, first and foremost, Mr. Chair, if I may?
Just a yes or a no. How do you?
Can I not speak on the matter? I'm sorry, it just.
Not at this time. There is a an appeal to my decision.
Yeah, I agree with the appeal. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You agree with what I'm
The
saying?
appeal.
That
No, well, I agree with what Madame Mayor has said, that we'll discuss this further. Let's discuss.
Okay,
what we're-
okay.
Okay.
Councilor Chris.
And I don't even know, but.
Okay, excuse me. Okay, the CAO was discussing the matter, was explaining exactly.
To be allowed
the
this
CAO
discussion. I agree with
I
you.
didn't.
I agree with you, Rolly.
Okay, thank you. And I also agree. Okay, Mr. Mallet, Councilor Mallet.
Yes, I do with you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Norm.
I agree because I would like to hear the rest of the presentation.
Oh, thank you. Councilor Dan.
Read.
Thank you. Mayor Joanne, obviously it's a no. Councilor Denis.
No.
Councilor Lees.
It doesn't matter, but no, I don't agree because it's not. what it's
Okay.
on.
Okay, so the matter is, the appeal is denied. Please, Mr. CAO, could you keep going?
so I'm speaking to a CAO and head of staff. The implications that the actions that were taken or comments that were made have on staff.
Point of order. Point of order. He's out of context. We're not talking about who said what. We're talking about the
What do you
corporation.
have to Bailey? Okay. Go ahead.
So funny, Mr. Barbeau. You should quit your job and look for a joking job.
Councilor Denis, keep it professional. If you don't, you will be there.
Yes,
Yes.
okay, I'll follow you.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Are you gonna
Okay.
rule on my point of order?
Yes, and it is overruled.
Well, I hope
Keep-
there's an
Mr.
appeal.
CAO, could you please go on?
Is there an
So
appeal?
all I am saying is that staff don't have any skin in this game. In the sense that with respect to, we uphold council policies and we uphold procedures. We bring things to council and council of the day agrees with it. Now, council of the day in 2000, I can mention the Lee Senecal, Joanne Savage,
wasn't there.
Noel days. Whatever. No, let me finish. I think I have the floor. So you guys agreed, and I remember this from Councillor Etier, about not upsetting the apple cart about these landfill sites were a great value, and that basically is the key communication.
Point of
tool,
order,
actually.
point of order. We're not
No,
dealing with.
you know what?
We're not
I am
dealing with
halfway
the
through a
old-
conversation.
We're
Seriously.
not dealing with the old.
Councilor
council,
Denis,
dealing with
Councilor
this
Denis, will you
What's your point of order?
give
Yeah.
the chance to CAO to finish and then you can.
Holy jeez,
comment.
maybe we should have a chance to speak also.
Councilor Denis, would you please leave?
No, I won't.
Well, you won't leave, then this will be closed.
No, so be it. I'm not leaving. I'll do just like you guys did. I'm not leaving.
So
It's not the
I'll wait
Barbeau
for-
show here.
Okay,
It's a council meeting.
could I,
I'll
could
wait
I
for-
ask,
Barbeau is
could I
later.
ask our municipal clerk to be able to shut down Monsieur Denis for the moment, please?
Madame Clerk doesn't have precedence. Never-
Who's running the computers?
She never
Well-
disconnected you, Mr. Counselor.
Well, I ask you.
All of a
to-
sudden, it's okay?
I-
All of a sudden, it's okay?
it's
Mr.
not.
Mr. Senegal,
Well,
Mr. Senegal, please leave.
no, I'm
And
not.
we will keep this
Now you know-
on.
Now you know how it
The
feels.
issue, so the issue, and I'll be.
You don't have the
consistent-
floor, Mr. Barbeau.
Yes, he does.
Well,
No,
I-
the chair has
you
the
might
floor.
like what I say. So can
Go ahead,
I,
the chair has the floor.
are you chairing, Councillor Senecal?
No, I'm asked to leave. I'm not leaving.
Okay, so let me finish. No,
No,
it's up for
no,
the
no.
chair to,
No, it's-
what
it's
I'm
not for you.
saying.
You're not
What I'm
dealing
saying,
with
if I
this.
can take
Yes.
the white noise off, is
chair has
that
to
the
deal with this.
Councillor Senecal
The
is
chair
accurate.
has to
in
deal
that-
with this.
Mr. Senegal, could you please
Yeah.
shut up?
No, I'm not leaving. I'm not gonna shut up.
So
Oh,
what
my
I'm
goodness.
You're a
indicating,
big
man.
what I'm
You are a
indicating,
big-
Mr. Barbeau to shut up.
what I'm
Speaks
indicating
for
to
20
you, Mr.
minutes.
Chair. What I'm
Eh?
indicating to you,
Okay,
Mr.
so
Chair.
if.
So he doesn't have to shut up, but I do.
Okay. If
Well,
this
I'm
is
trying
the
to
attitude,
help
we might as well
procedure.
shut this down.
Well, shut it
Councillor
up.
Senecal, I'm
gonna-
trying to help procedure and I'm actually trying to help you. If you would just allow
Oh,
me.
Lord
I
help
think
me
if
for
you
that.
let me finish, you might be happy.
No, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the chair.
Okay, well, the
Thanks.
chair is saying to
Talk
shut
to
up.
the chair too. I'm trying to help Councillor Senecal, Chair.
Well, I'm trying to
Thank
talk
you.
to the
Could you please
chair.
help him?
All right.
I don't need Mr.
Councillor
Barbeau.
Senecal is,
I don't
I
need
make a
that.
motion to adjourn, please.
I'm not
Yes.
leaving. You deal with it, Mr. Chair.
Well, I am shutting
Well,
this
deal
down.
with it. Do it. Deal with it.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Who seconds it? Motion to adjourn, Mr. Fisher, seconded by Leo, Councilor
that's
Leo.
unfortunate. That's really unfortunate, Councillor Senecal. That's,
It's
We'll
unfortunate.
go,
but-
we will resolve this on Facebook, I guess.
Okay,
Oh, well, you can send me, you can send me another
Denis.
memo, personal
Jose
memo like
Denis.
you do. That's fine.
Jose Denis and
Yeah.
the chair. Let the CEO finish and we'll have the opportunity to do a roundtable and to ask the question
No,
and
no.
codify exactly the comments that were said. Let it be for now. To the
No.
CEO, please.
He asked me to leave. I'm not leaving. He has to deal with this.
Okay, so you're not leaving. So
No.
let's proceed.
no,
Okay.
Madam Chair, Councillor Larrabee is chairing the meeting.
I know.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. CAO. And at this time, I'm asking Mr. Senegal to leave.
No, he's not going. So
Could we shut down his
No, you
computer,
can't.
please?
That's
No.
where, that's where I was commenting is no, I wasn't prepared to do that. Others, I'm not prepared to do that for Mr. Senecal.
Okay,
That's
all right.
Councillor Senecal, that was in your favor. Yeah.
I don't think so.
No, I was supporting you. No, it was good.
Well, do I have to listen to you rant another 20 minutes?
Why?
It-
Why? You can put your finger.
Okay, Mr. CAO, if you could please keep going, please.
I support the motion to adjourn. No, come on. So, I mean,
So what I was indicating was that, okay, let me cut to the chase then, because this is devolving. There is nothing from a staff perspective that would warrant any investigation or acknowledgement of wrongdoing from the accounting procedures that we have internally. We feel extremely comfortable with respect to the information we receive, the audit that we have on all of our landfills, and that they are effectively and efficiently managed. Now, with respect to the politics of this, what I can indicate, and I won't be taking sides, We did receive, there was a complaint by the very counselor who is trying to stir it now, that on conflict, that there was a ruling that there was no conflict that existed. And that is all I can indicate to you that we have in our public record. Thank you, and I'd be open to any questions.
Well, that's not a fair statement.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. CAO. And now I might add maybe a little bit of flavor to this, but the community of River Valley, like most of the communities, was built on volunteers. So we saw very good men and women volunteering their time, efforts, and even money to keep our community alive and vibrant. And the community of River Valley Waste Management is no different. A board was put in place back in the late 80s, early 90s by the MNR to keep our local dump in service. No one on the board is being paid. It's all volunteer. So this is a witch hunt to try to make me look bad, but I am proud to have put in savings of $1.2 million since it started in 1999. This is the truth. Okay, so now we'll do a roundtable to see if we keep with this, if we keep going on this witch hunt. And I think the question should be, do we direct staff to keep moving forward to get the information? And this is the memo that I'm receiving. So we'll do a roundtable. Yvonne John.
My hand has been up ever since.
Yes, we're doing a roundtable. We are doing a roundtable. We'll start with Councillor John.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, but I don't know about the mayor, but personally, I have a question I would like to clarify before you do your roundtable.
That's right. And I do have questions.
Okay, then go ahead, then, Mayor.
Was before me.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Chair. There was no implication of wrongdoing by staff. Okay, but I do want to clarify some issues. The question came around when council noticed that in their disbursements at an October meeting, that there was a check nearly of $5,000 that was issued to a contractor by the name of Bylaw. That brought on questions. And yes, there was a complaint done to the Integrity Commissioner. The Integrity Commissioner, after review and probably review with staff, identified, well, there is a perceived conflict. However, identified as long as Councillor Rowley would recuse himself from the future. The question came about, why do we have a councillor that is getting a source of income on our disbursement sheets dating back to October 2020 for work performed at a municipal dump owned by the municipality? So even though the IC did do an investigation with a recommendation to recuse yourself, Councillor Rowley, in the last 2 months, the disbursements that we got at another meeting stated River Valley Waste Management, care of Rowley Larabi. So when staff is saying that they don't recall when the questions were asked, I specifically recall asking at the budget deliberation meeting for solid waste. I asked to obtain clarification pertaining to what work, if any work, is being done by an elected official sitting around this table at a dump site, at a dump landfill owned by the municipality. I was assured by our CEO that subsequently there would be information that would come forward, a report to council. The issue that were raised to the public is for accountability and transparency. It's to know exactly who does the work, and is the work being performed by an elected official, and how much is being paid to the elected official. Now, I read the report of our CEO. The tone of this report is unacceptable because it would be the tone used by an elected official towards a member of staff. It would not be acceptable. I did not ask for personal comments. I asked to obtain facts, and it's been 2 years trying to find out who does the work at a landfill owned by the municipality. And excuse me, Mr. Chair, you are the Chair of Environmental Services. You sit on the West Nipissing Environmental Committee. Some past committee members never even heard of River Valley Waste Management. If your name would have never appeared in disbursements, probably the questions would have never been asked. And we wouldn't be pending and waiting for answers to those issues. So at the end, I'm still waiting to find out the facts. I'd like to know the definition of what is periodic. How many times in the last year, what was the total amount of dollars that we paid to River Valley Waste Management? Was there any work done by you, Conseiller Rowley? Because in October at the meeting, you stated that you were the only qualified individual to push the dump and perform work at the dump. There's also an email that the CEO did send to Conseiller Denise Senecal, identifying exactly that there was 50 hours worth of work that was done for the sum of $4,700. So yes, it did probe questions, and the questions that are being probed is to be able to be accountable and transparent to the public. Now, to allude to the fact of anything else, as a CEO, when we ask for a report or we ask for information, it's not because we're going on a witch hunt. It's to be able to have an understanding of exactly what is going on.
That's absolute, punk.
And then when I read
Yeah, it's
this,
full.
Chair, may I have a point of order?
on
Mr.
page 2,
Yes,
if I-
Mr. Chair,
Councillor Dan, what's your
point of order.
on
Mr.
page 2,
Point of order, Madam Chair. Mr. Chair, point of
Yes.
order, please. May I have the point of order?
Yes, you
Thank
may have a point of order. What's your point of order?
My point of order is, again, the mayor is trying to deviate from the conversation here in regards to what's going on. There has been no proven that there's been any wrongdoing. Let's move forward on this. I am so sick and tired of this witch hunt. I think it's not progressive for our community. We have to move forward, and let's move forward. That's all I'm trying to do, and I'd like a decision on that.
Thank you, Councillor Dan. It is.
a point of order, Mr. Chair, is not done to be able to prohibit or disturb someone to be able to ask questions. And I did have a question pertaining to the report.
For the chair to rule.
Yeah, just, yes, Councillor Dan.
Can you please attest or at least rule on my point of order? It was a point that the mayor had made in another conversation, that the conversation was deviating from the source of what we were supposed to talk about. And here she is basically doing the same thing. So that's my point of order. That's all.
Let me ask my
Thank you.
question.
No.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Dan. Madam Mayor, could you please ask your question, and then we'll move
Yes,
on.
question on page 2. The nonprofit corporation submits an annual budget that is reviewed internally and adjusted by staff. Their submission are then presented to council for approval. Well, I've never received or recall receiving a submission for approval at this council table, not by the corporations. So this memo does state that. It states.
It's received by the corporation. Let the stuff that we receive and we consolidate and bring to you does not necessarily mean, it comes down, I guess, to roles and responsibilities, with respect to you thinking you're managing the place. So don't interrupt, because I know you want to, but we receive these documents from these different organizations and we consolidate them in a report that we submit to council. So if you haven't seen it, if you'd like to see it, we'd be happy to share it.
Well, I was questioning it because
well,
it's black.
I don't remember my lips stopping to move. I would be happy to share that with council so that you can be assured that staff is not just inventing numbers as to how to run a landfill site.
I wish to clarify
thank
that
you.
I'm
Ma'am,
not suggesting, no, I wish to clarify, I'm not suggesting that staff is inventing. What I would like to know is how much money was paid to River Valley Waste Management in a year? How much money of, how much of those funds were
It's in your
paid-
budget. It's in your budget that we
Let me
approved.
finish my
ma'am.
question, Mr. Chair. I have a right to know how much money you were paid for performing any work at the River Valley landfill. The landfill is owned by the municipality. How much money was paid out to you? And the reason why all of this surfaced
You-
is because
If I may, excuse me, if I may interrupt, what does you not understand? And when I'm saying it's a volunteer board, free, nobody gets paid. What is there in that sentence that you don't understand?
So why
Is there-
is it a
you-
volunteer board
Do you
getting money?
understand?
Wow, that's
Councilor
pretty-
Brody, I find that
Okay.
very.
Okay,
Mr.
now,
Chair,
Wow.
I have a
Councilor
right
Robert,
to,
Wow,
I
that's
have,
pretty.
and the
Wow.
elected official has the right.
Councilor
Maybe
Robert,
it's-
Councilor Robert, you had a question?
Well, you know what? It seems we're not.
Councilor-
Oh.
Councilor Robert?
Years.
Okay, well, me, I'm reading, I'm trying to stay on the subject, so I'm reading what was presented, the request. And the statement reads, who is part of board and why are they not accountable, council, and who is responsible for accounting of the periodic 5,000 feet? That's the question that was written down, right?
Okay.
So me, the way I read this is, I guess, when people say we should sound subject, I guess that's what we're looking at, is, first of all, the board, regardless, when we deal with a corporation, we deal with the corporation and not the board members. Usually there's somebody, whether it's the chair or the treasurer, whatever title that person holds within that corporation, is the one that sends out the invoice and receive the money and deposit it in the bank. That's my understanding of how boards operate and how they relate to the municipality. So from what I gather is each landfill site, those out of the that are administered by a volunteer nonprofit corporation, is that they submit their budget. It's I guess it's compared to previous year and all that stuff. Then it goes through the budget process, it's approved, and on a regular period, they submit an invoice, and the accounting department of the municipality issue a payment according to. So am I right all along there? So that's the way I understand the process. So whoever is member or not member has nothing to do with the municipality. It's if the board wants to discuss it with somebody and say this is who's member, but we deal with a lot of corporation or groups, whether it's the seniors club or the Knights of Columbus or the Legion, all that. And all we do is with the person making the presentation and the request to council, but we don't ask for a full list of their internal operation. In case of a landfill, the only interest we have is that the operator or the group operated to meet Ministry Environment system, and I haven't seen any complaint from any ministry, whether it's the environment or MNR or whatever, that we were not conforming, that the group was not conforming to the process. So I think that's the limit, of our involvement here is that being a corporation, just like the municipality of West Nipissing is a corporation, we both have to retain the services of a chartered accountant to do our year-end audit, submit reports to the different government, nonprofit organization have a somewhat different reporting, but they still do the same reporting. They still have to pay WSIB, everything that goes on. Who is on working for them? I don't think is us, because we don't tell who works on the municipal landfill. So I think that is, we have to deal it. So I think we're all arguing and going nowhere and we have a big agenda. And I think the explanation is just, it's been audited from both sides, everything. So that's my position anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Robert. And you are bang on. You're absolutely right. Like I said it before, it's a witch hunt. And so anyways, we're gonna, do you guys still want to do it on round table?
Well, of course.
A point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Allude to the fact that it's a witch hunt is an insulting remark, and that's part of our procedures. Elected officials do have a right to ask questions and to seek answers to the question. So do not make reference to a witch hunt.
Madam Mayor, it is a witch hunt. What else can I call it? You have another name for it?
I just raised a point of order
name for
that
it.
you are in violation to our procedures, Conseil.
Okay, well, make a complaint to the Integrity Commissioner. Thank you.
Exactly.
You know what? This is not a laughing matter. And
It is not.
To witness the CEO laughing on an issue where we would not be having a heated discussion if we were just provided the information, answers to the question.
What information are you asking for, Madam?
I am making reference to our chair, which I called the point of order.
No, but what
It is
information?
stated that insulting remarks should not be accepted. You are making reference as an elected official around this table that we are on a witch hunt because we're asking answers and seeking answers. We're asking questions to get answers.
Madam Mayor, there's an IC process. I'm not disagreeing.
Mr. CEO, I did a point of order to our chair pertaining
But
to a
there's no
violation
reference
of our
to any part,
procedures.
there's no reference to any part of the procedural bylaw. So you're just making a complaint that you don't agree with.
Mr. Barbeau, are you chairing or what?
You know what, in the absence of anything,
I'd like to know. I like to know.
Councillor
who's
Senecal,
chairing.
you know
I'm not
what?
sure if it's true.
Knowing where this is all going, you know what? I think we're going to close this meeting because I'm having too much fun here. So, okay.
So, you know what, in my opinion, you're being so out of context, trying to defend your point, that I mean, you look so guilty even looking at you because I have nothing to do with this. Oh my God.
Let's stop. It's visible. We're not going to get answers to those
Are you on the
questions.
board, mister?
Be shameful.
There is no answers.
You got every answer.
Mr. Ellerby, are you on the board? Of River Valley? Well, yes or no? Are you on the board?
You know what?
Yes
I
or
know.
no? Yes
I
or
know,
no?
but I don't need
Yes
to
or
tell
no?
you.
Are you on the board? Well, I think the residents need to know. The residents of West Nipissing need to know. Are you on the board?
Conseil, Mr. Chair.
You did not listen to what I said. You did not
Can
listen to what I said.
Can we adjourn the meeting to benefit the staff? To benefit the staff, we don't need that.
I am adjourning the meeting. Good night, everyone.
Mr. Chair,
Meeting is adjourned.
Good evening.
Just go back on Facebook.
Melanie,
Good evening.